Okay, it looks like we're at the top of the hour, so we'll go ahead and get started. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Guava 7 official release webinar. My name is Q Mangus. I'm the Director of Product Marketing here at Guava. We're joined here today by Ben Horne. He's the Guava Operations Manager, and he'll be demonstrating Guava 7 for all of us. I'd like to start off by thanking everyone for attending this webinar and really hope that you benefit from the information we're presenting today. So today we're going to actually be showing Guava 7. We're going to go through some of the major changes and upgrades to the architecture, setup, and interface of Guava. And just so everyone is aware, this is being recorded, and everyone who's on this call or who registered will get a link to the recording for further review. Some of the things that we'll be going over today are some of those new features are the new user-friendly web interface, the role-based user administration, multi-tenant support, the multi-threaded high-performance scanning, the scalable design, fault-tolerant configuration, the easy-to-configure ad hoc customizable notifications, improved pattern matching, and the standardized web port configuration support. Also, we will have some time at the end for some questions. So if you do have questions as we're going through, feel free to put those through in the Q&A panel or the chat panel there, and we'll address those at the end. So let's go ahead and get started. We have a few items to go through, so we'll start out here. Okay, to start out with, the first question we have is, I understand the setup of Guava 7 has changed a bit from Guava 6. Ben, could you show us the new setup and install of Guava 7?
Yeah, so with Guava 7, most people are very familiar with the way Guava 6 was installed. Guava 7 will, right now it's running as an appliance only, so we do have a download for an OVA file that works on VMware ESX and virtual. Those things and get it up and running. So right here, I do have a machine that I've deployed the OVA file. I'm just going to boot it up and kind of show you what you can expect to do in order to get Guava 7 up and running. So with the OVA file, the operating system's already installed. Guava's not installed yet, but the operating system is installed and ready to go. So first thing that we'll see here is after you boot up the machine, there's a couple things you have to do. It tells you right here at the beginning that says Guava needs to be configured before and installed before you can actually start to use it. So the default username and password are shown there. It's Guava and Guava. We hit enter to log in. And then it tells us, all right, now that you've logged in, here's what you need to do to get Guava up and running. So we run that command. And then we type in the password again. And we just go through the prompts in order to get Guava up and running. First thing it wants to do is it wants to set up the network interface. So we're saying, well, which interface are we setting up? And then we give it an IP. Subnet. Gateway. And it confirms saying, are these correct? Yes. And we can specify a host name for this machine and the domain. And once confirm again, just make sure we got it in there right. At this point, it's going to do a restart of the network service and then ask you, do you require any proxy settings if you require a proxy server to get out to the internet? No, it does a network test, make sure that we can get out. Now we want to reset the password for this Guava user. This is so as you have your own systems, we're not going to just leave the default password as Guava. We're going to let you specify whatever you want it to be. So it's successful. Next thing we want to do is set the time zone so that the Guava server is the same time zone that you are. So we can set America and then choose your city. Does the sync up with the time server. And next thing it does is we're going to make sure that we're running on the latest security patches for the appliance. So you can see there it is running. We're syncing up with some of the Ubuntu mirrors. So it's going to sync up, and then we always want to make sure that you're running on the latest system with Guava. That way you don't have to worry about any exploits and things like that. After that, we're going to actually go through and install some Guava prerequisite software in order to get the Guava software. And after that, it will go through and install Guava. We should see that here fairly shortly. So there we're syncing up, we're getting all the Guava software. And after it does that, now we're actually going to go through and install Guava. At this point, there's a lot of different prerequisite packages that have to be done in order to be able to run Guava, like getting Apache, PHP, a lot of whatever, all the different prerequisite packages. So this we can just let run, and it takes a few minutes just depending on your internet speed, but we can let that run and we can show you another system that is pretty much at the state that this is completed and we're now ready to configure Guava. So I'll just pull up the browser here. So after you go through and you configure Guava, this is going through the initial setup. So just like we had in Guava 6, we have a basic server installation page. One of the main differences now is you no longer have to go to the Guava port of 49282. The Guava 7 is fully reliant on using the web server and using the standard port 80, and then if you need to configure it, it will also work using HTTPS. So we'll go through this basic system. Go through. This is where you can specify if this is the first install, or if you're going to be joining an existing Guava network. It does have some basic information in here that you want to type in. Specify an admin user, admin password. Put in your domain, your administrator email address, the mail relay server. So this is where Guava will route your mail to. And I'm just going to put in simple IP address. Down at the bottom, you can see our Postgres database configuration. If you're running your own Postgres database system, you can put in the server address, the name, the user and password. We do have separate databases for the Guava management and the filtering database, a different database for your quarantine, and a different database for your statistics. Once everything is filled in here, and you can hit the next, it validates that we can connect up to the Postgres system and everything's ready to go. And then we go to and do the install. So once it's complete, you should say the login page here, and you should be able to log into Guava 7 now. Notice that you don't have to, compared to Guava 6, you don't have to click the little link to say, yeah, log me in now. We're immediately prompted with what is the username and password. And from there, we can now log into Guava 7 and do our configuration.
Okay, great. Really quick, a couple of questions just came through as you were going through that, Ben. The questions were, it looks like we're discussing a fresh install. What about an upgrade? What would they do differently if they're upgrading from Guava 6?
So regarding the upgrade, it is a little bit different. There isn't a full migration path from Guava 6 to Guava 7, just because the underlying architecture and all the way that everything's set up is quite a bit different from Guava 7 than it is Guava 6. We're still working on seeing if there's a way to bring over all the configurations, the text filters, or the exceptions and things like that over to the Guava 7 system. So we are still working on that. We hope to have something here fairly soon. It's pretty easy to get that all up.
Okay, great. Let's see. The next question we have is, looks great. How about the all-new user-friendly web interface? Could you give us a rundown of what has changed there?
Yeah, so with the user interface, it is a little bit different than what you're used to in Guava 6. We only have 3 menu options here on the left. You notice you have your system management, module management, and the organization/policy management. With the system management, if you were in a multiple Guava network, you would see all of your Guava systems here. And then there are some basic configuration items here, like specifying your SSL configuration. And you can force all the connections to be HTTPS. You are able to specify the languages. We have user interfaces, so when you log in, you're able to say or prompt the user to say, do you want to go to system administration, the quarantine administration, or somewhere else like that. The templates, this is where you can have multiple digest templates for quarantine, especially if you're running, say, in an ISP type. So you want different customers to have different interfaces. You have your different database connections, so you could have multiple quarantine bases, which could be useful in an ISP type mode. A lot of different options here. We do have the online updates, so it's much easier to do online updates. You just do a quick start update, and away you go. And then you can always see the available updates with our release notes, whether it be in our release channel or even in the beta channel. So you're able to see if you want to try out the beta and see what things that we fixed. So with module management, as of right now, you're able to see all the module status of everything that's running on this server. In a multiple Guava system, you would see everything for each of those Guava servers. With the interfaces, with Guava 7 right now, we're only doing the SMTP interface, but we will have additional interfaces in the future. With the SMTP interface, you can see that quite a bit different than the Guava 6 style, but there's a lot more features that you can do with it, and specifying different timeouts and different rejection settings. You know, if you've got somebody doing a dictionary attack on you, you can prevent that with Guava 6 or with Guava 7. Have your relay protection, just like we got in Guava 6. You know, we want to make sure that only certain email server or certain machines that connect up to Guava are allowed to send out. We have our same connection drop services that we have with Guava 6. We have the denial service. We have scanner fault tolerances, so it's a built-in fault tolerance with the SMTP interface. And then with this Guava scan engine, this is just like the Guava process that you're used to in Guava 6. You can have multiple of these processes running with Guava 7. And you can have, as part of the fault tolerance package, you could spin up another Guava machine and only put in a Guava scan engine, and then the SMTP interface would be able to round robin between those two Guava scan engines and talk to each one. The mail relay module, this is where we specify where to route alerts, quarantine digest, any messages that are released from the quarantine. This is where you would configure those things. With the QMS module, this is where you specify anything related to the quarantine. If you had, and you can spin up multiple quarantine modules on a single machine. So if you were doing an ISP type mode, you could have 3 or 4 or unlimited number of QMS modules running on a single machine, and each QMS module would service just a single organization. Same thing with the statistics engine. You can have multiple statistics engines, and they are correlated to just a single organization. If the organization needed to have its data separated from another one of customers or another organizations. So with the organization policy management, you do have an overview status. Because we don't have anything routed through here, we don't see any stats here, so nothing yet to see here. With the settings, you can see just some basic settings. You know, which interfaces is this organization tied to, the scan engine, the quarantine engines, like that. So that's the main part of the UI. It is quite a bit different than what you're used to in Guava 6, and we'll go into some more details with some of these other ones specifically as we go through this presentation.
Perfect. Thanks again, Ben. Great information. A couple of quick questions that came through, and then we'll go on to the other parts. There was just a question about HyperV when you were talking about the environments at the beginning. Did you mention HyperV?
Not yet. We are working to get HyperV working. Right now, with the OVA model, the HyperV doesn't play nice with those. We are working on doing an ISO. So the ISO should be able to be deployed on HyperV, possibly Zen and KVM. We're still working with some of the issues with Zen and KVM where they don't yet support the server that we're running with Guava 7 yet. So we should be able to support HyperV here pretty shortly.
Great. And then a question came through about WASP. What about WASP? Do we need to add that again?
WASP will be coming. We should. There will be some development time that we'll need to spend on that, but we should be able to support WASP with Guava 7 in the future, yes.
Okay, great. All right, and then back to the other questions here. Guava has role-based user administration. Could you review for us what that means and show us how it works?
Sure. So with Guava 6, you just had a basic system administrator. With Guava 7, you're able to create and manage virtually an unlimited number of users within the system. Each user within the system, you can specify where their management is set. You give them a password, their email address, and then you assign them a role. For example, this admin user, he's assigned the QMS administrator and the system administrator roles. With users that you create, you can specify the roles that are assigned to them. With the default roles that we have the system administrator, which gives you full access to the system. You have organizational unit supervisors, which will be prompted at everything that we see here under organization/policy management. This is what a member of an organization, an OU supervisor, would see. They would not see anything to do with the system management or module management, but only things that pertain to a specific organization. Policy administrators, they are able to create and modify existing policies. Policies are what are used to actually scan your mail and say, this is what I'm going to do when certain events fire. Policy users, they are allowed only to modify existing policies but not create new policies. The quarantine administrator, so this is users that are allowed to do anything inside of the quarantine system, whether it's do digest releasing messages, deleting messages, forwarding messages on to somebody else. And a QMS user, this would be just as you log in with your email address, you would only see emails that pertain to yourself or that were sent to you. So those are the basic rules or roles that we have with Guava 7. And there are ways inside of the domain management, I'll show you here, of new users. And you can set, as new users log into the system, what role do I want to assign them? That way, if you had a user that you needed to give additional roles to, you could have them log in. They would now show up under the managed users, and then you could assign different roles to those users. So a lot of different options with users and user management within Guava 7 that we didn't have in Guava 6.
Wonderful. Great. Great information. Going back to what we were talking about with the WASP and everything, the question, a follow-up question was, so I need to stay on Guava 6 until the upgrade process in WASP is finished. Is that correct?
You don't have to. One of the things that you can do with Guava 7 is if you've got multiple public IP addresses, is you could have Guava 7 and Guava 6 running side by side, or you could have Guava 7 sitting in front of Guava 6. That way you could keep Guava 6 up and running, still doing everything that WASP needs to do in order to do the scanning until we can get WASP running on Guava 7. So you don't have to have one or the other, or you don't have to wait until Guava 7 supports doing WASP. You can have them running side by side or one in front of the other. It's depending what your resources allow for.
Great. All right, so let's move on to multi-tenant support. Could you explain the support to us and why it's important? And could you touch on auto-provisioning of new accounts?
Yeah. So with Guava 7, it's built in right out of the box, whether it's this installation or you need to run in a multi-tenant situation. Nothing is different between the two installs. The only difference is how are you going to set up and manage a multi-tenant system. And that's all done through the managed organizations. Right now, in a default system, there are no additional organizations set up, but you're able to create new organizations, give it a name, it could be whatever you want it to, and then you can say, based on this organization, I'm going to say these roles are available to this organization. These events, meaning these are the different tests that we can do on a message. If you wanted to only give a limited scope of what you're going to scan to certain, in a multi-tenant situation, for example, if you had a light feature which says, look, I'm only going to stop spam and viruses, you could have tenants that are configured to only be able to do spam and virus. Or you could give them a fuller feature set that says, look, you're paying me more money, so I'm going to let you do any of the tests that are built into the Guava 7 system. So as you create organizations, then you can give them all these different rights and give the services, which is what do we do when an event fires. With the exceptions, what exceptions do they have? The templates, are they allowed to have digests or do the forward from quarantine, the notifications? And then what user interface are they going to have access to? If you only say, look, you're not paying me for very much, so there's no reason for you to have this full system access interface where you can modify your policy. You just get to log into the quarantine and see what you have there. And then you can have an expiration user limit, and you can, even if you had even a complex organizational unit, you could have an organization under you that manages organizations, do things and give them rights to the same system. So as you create an organization, you now see that this organization comes up. It looks just like the default one. It's got everything set up in here. One thing that you do have to do in a you'll want to do to help facilitate the setting up of new accounts and kind of it's a hands-off approach, if you will, is this URI association. So you specify a URL like guava7.guava.com. Customer can kind of just go to that page, and then there's a sign-up button. And then you put in the different things here that you can say, look, as somebody signs up for my system, assign them to this organizational unit. So it'll actually create another organization within this organization. It goes through an automated email sign-up process. So they've got to have a sign-up. You send them a subject. If they need to reset the password, here's the subject. And then it uses the CAPTCHA client and server keys to prove that it's not a bot. So it's to help facilitate not getting bombarded by a bot and having thousands of random accounts get set up. And with the skin, if you want to do specific skins to give different user interfaces. You just have to type in the skin that you want to use. And those are custom skins that you do have to create. So with the organizations, as they sign up, when they log in, all they see, or all they would be assigned to, is the organizational supervisor role. So they would only see the settings, users, roles, manage organizations, domain management, and policy management. They would not. They can log in. You don't need to know their password or anything about their organization. They log in, and then they can create and modify their policies as they would like. And like I said, with auto provisioning, if you get them to sign up, clients can sign up completely hands-off to you. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to manage, setting them up or anything like that. You can just say, here, go to this page, sign up, and put in your information, and we'll get you all set up, and virtually nothing you have to do in order to get them up and running.
Great. Okay. It looks like there was a few questions here. Let's see. Back to the upgrade or update process. It said, will the update process for the appliance update everything besides just Guava, such as the OS?
So this does require a new server, so it's not an in-place upgrade. So you will have to deploy a new machine. It does run on a different OS. I did see that there was a question on there about why switching to the Ubuntu model. The reason for switching to Ubuntu was because of security patches and updates. They are much more frequent when running on Ubuntu versus SLES. SLES is quite slow at pushing out the security updates, whereas Ubuntu is quite fast, and then we are guaranteed security updates for a minimum of 5 years. So, yeah.
Okay, great. All right, let's talk a little bit about the appliance-based model. So Guava 7 has moved to that. Could you tell us what that means for Guava?
So because it is the appliance model, I know a lot of different organizations, they like to spin up their own machines and manage them. With the Guava running in an appliance model, we're maintaining that the security, the system is kept up to date, and we know that there aren't going to be specific issues, whether running in a 32-bit OS versus a 64-bit OS. Because we run with this appliance model now, we're making sure that we know the underlying server, the architecture, and we make sure that we are compatible with what is being run underneath.
Great. And could you touch on the new multi-threaded high-performance scanning?
Yeah, so if we go back to the module management here, with the SMTP interface pages, you are able to spin up multiple SMTP interfaces in a single installation. So whether it be similar to a Guava network installation or something like that, if you have multiple public IP addresses that you can route mail into, you can specify which organizations are serviced by this SMTP interface, and then you can have, say 5 SMTP servers up and running. They can all do different specific connection drop services. So you could have a couple that don't do RBL or don't do the IP reputation service. They just do the main body scanning of a message. They're not doing any connection level tests. So you are able to specify those SMTP interfaces on multiple machines. And likewise, you can do the Guava Scan Manager. You can have multiple machines that all they do are scan message content. So you could have one main SMTP interface, but you could have 10 scan engine managers to spread the load and do the multiple scanning across multiple machines.
All right. Okay, could you talk about the scalable design of Guava 7?
Yeah, so very similar to the multi-threaded and high-performance scanning. With the scalable design, if you feel that the number of messages being scanned by Guava, if the Guava servers themselves are under too much load and you need to spread that out, you can spin up another Guava server and add it to the Guava network, install the Guava Scan Engine Manager to that server, and now that server will be able to service and scan messages coming into the system that will help offload some of the additional load from the existing servers. And a single Guava system, depending on how many messages come through your mail server each day, if you feel like you need to split the load there, you throw in another Guava server and have the scanning go on there. If you feel like, okay, well, I've got 3, but they're all pretty idle, just the same way that you add in a server, you can say, look, we don't need this Guava scan engine anymore. Let's take it out of the equation. Let's, decommission that machine, and then you're done. So it works both ways, where you can scale up or you can scale down by adding multiple servers to the Guava network.
Okay, great. Let's see. Next is fault-tolerant configuration. What does that mean for Guava 7?
So just like if you have multiple MX records, that's the whole reason for that is to either do load balancing or fault tolerance, meaning if server 1 goes down, then server 2 is going to pick up where you left off or pick up the slack. So within Guava, it's the same thing, where even if you have a single SMTP interface, but you want to have multiple Guava scan engines, that way if scan engine 1 goes down, you have the SMTP interface scan, well, I can't connect to my priority 1.1. Let's go to the next one on the priority list and see if he can scan the message. If that one fails, let's go to the next one down, until all of the Guava scan engines have been exhausted. So if machines go down, or if you need to take a machine down for maintenance mode, Guava has the capability of being able to hit up the other Guava machines in the Guava network and should not have any effect on the mail flow coming in or out through the system, unless, of course, you take down the database server, and then you'll need to take down all of Guava, just because we are reliant on being able to connect up to the servers, the database server.
Okay, great. It looks like there's a few questions that we can touch on here. One was, where would you find the HW specs for a host machine in a non-VM environment?
So that is all in our online documentation. So in the system requirements, Guava 7 is pretty light, where we're just requiring a single CPU, 2 gigs of RAM, and at least 60 gigs of disk space. That is for the OVA file. With the ISO model, those are a little bit more under your control as far as specifying the number of CPUs, the RAM, and the disk size.
Okay, and the next one is, due to AWS limitations regarding ISO images, will Guava be available as an installer?
As of right now, we haven't made that determination that will allow that, and the reason is because when we allow you to install on your own server, now you'll be running on a potentially different Ubuntu server with different configurations or whatnot. So this way, the whole reason we did the ISO or the OVA is because we need to make sure that we can control and make sure that the processes that we're making and building are going to be able to run under the systems that we specify.
Great. And then is Guava 7 64-bit or still 32-bit?
It is 64-bit and then 64-bit only. So we do not do any 32-bit programs with Guava 7.
Great. And then the last one is, when will the production build be released?
I know that they were hoping to have it done by GuavaCon. I know that's going on right now. I have not heard on a definitive date of when Guava 7 will be publicly released.
But when it does happen, we'll be sure to send everyone a message on that. So know that it should be soon, and we'll get that out to you. Okay, great. Let's talk about a little bit about the easy-to-create filter combinations and features. I understand you can group filters and features. So what filters can be grouped, and how is it done?
Right. So with the way that we set the system up right now, it's set up ready to go out of the box, being able to handle mail flow into your system. It has not yet been set up to actually scan messages and set up the quarantine and what to send to the quarantine. In order to do that, we need to go into the policy management, and anything that has never been configured, see if I can come back here. You'll see that there's a little blue triangle set up here. So if there's something that hasn't been configured, similar to this unnamed organization, that under domain management there's no domains defined, if there's no policies defined, then you get the little blue triangle saying, look, you need to make sure that a policy is defined in order for us to scan mail and actually block stuff. So you have the two capabilities. There's add new or add with wizard. The add with wizard, with your first installation, definitely go with the add with wizard. This way it sets everything up the way that you will want it set up. So you can specify, are we handling inbound, outbound mail? We're going to stop viruses and stop spam. Are we going to detect the viruses by the signature? And are we going to do the fingerprinting and attachment types? Do we want to enable the quarantine and make sure that the stuff that you are blocking and quarantining, that it gets sent to the quarantine? And at the end here, just give you an installation summary of what you're going to be doing with this new policy. And steps complete. You can now see that the mail filter policy has been created. And right now, it doesn't look like it's actually doing any scanning or what it's going to do. But this is just saying, look, we're handling inbound, outbound. We're going to scan archives. How deep are we going to go? And at any time, this applies to the entire UI. If you don't like the way something is called, just click in. Supposed to do that. You can click inside the box, and you can change what it's called. So if you want to call it something more descriptive, you're more than welcome to do that. So once you create a policy, you can see under the policy scan configuration, you can see we now have mail filter policy, which is what this one was called, and what it's going to actually do and do the scanning. So this is now where we greatly divide from Guava 6, and this is much different than what we're used to with Guava 6. So with Guava 7, I'm just going to collapse this down so it's not, you can see more of it. We have three different key menu items here. We have filters, services, and exceptions. Filters are what are we going to scan for, viruses, spam, fingerprinting, things like that. Services are what do we do when we hit on a filter or a filter is activated, what are we going to do? And then exceptions are just like from Guava 6, if a filter fires and there's a service to say block or quarantine, the exception will say, look, I still want that coming in for whatever reason. So we have our templates. These are the different filters that you can add down to the box down here at the bottom. The components are ones that you've already that have been configured or added already down to the deployment workbench. With the workbench, this is the way everything is set up and how you want to scan messages that come in. So this has been added with the default, with the policy with the wizard. If you did add new and you just said, I'm going to go it myself, you would have to come in here and start dragging everything around. You can pretty much what you do is you say, I'm going to drag from here, I'm going to drag it down here. The filter gets added both to the deployment workbench and also to the components. You can see it already got added there. When you add items by themselves, it doesn't it doesn't do anything. It just says, well, I'm going to start scanning for this message and or scanning for this filter type, but that's all it does. It ends there. If you want to block a message based on, for example, this image analyzer, I want to say if it's ever triggered on this, then I want to set, I'm going to drag the little colored icon and I'm going to drag it over to message block. And now the line gets added to say, look, here's my association with this service. And the only thing you have to do is match up the colored little dots and then right to left side. And at that point, you hit save. Now it's been added to the deployment workbench, and now Guava 7 will start filtering for that. You have the option, like you said, about the combinations. So for example, we have this spam filter group. The groups in themselves don't actually do anything until you add sub filters to them. This way, this way you can specify, look, I have to have any of these events fire. I'll get a little drop it on here, drag this up and show you. You have different options on filter groups, and it says, look, I'm going to disable this node, or I'm going to invert the node logic, meaning if this doesn't fire, then do this, or if it does fire, pretty much if it doesn't fire on something, then we're going to do something. We can disable all the child tests if you were doing some kind of maintenance or some testing. You can run the child event if this specific event is fired, not necessarily applicable to a group, but if something it fired for a fingerprint and you had done some custom policies, you could say, well, do a source address filter and say, well, is it from this person as well? And then you have the option for these child events where you can have a lot of custom options here to say, look, if I set up a filter group, I need to have a certain number of the child events fire, a percentage of the child events fire, or I need to make sure that I need to test to see if everything fires for this group, then I'm going to do something. I can't do that with Guava 6, but with Guava 7, you can come in here and you can tweak and really do just about anything you want with Guava 7, and having specific filters apply to specific departments or a lot of different custom filter combinations that you want to set up and test for. With all of the filters here, if there are any custom options, if you click on the icon, you should get a little tooltip that says configure this item, and you should be able to configure any of those items. For example, that was the quarantine whitelist. So with a policy added with the wizard, we do set up the personal whitelists for users, but we don't set up the global whitelist. The reason for that is you can always come back in here and add the whitelist option. But what we didn't want to specify for you as administrators, what does this apply to? Are we going to say, oh, well, I need to have it applied to spam, and I need to apply it to attachment names, and I need to apply it to the fingerprinting. If you drag in other filters and you're doing all these other different custom tests, you as an administrator need to be able to come in here and say, I need to associate this exception with these specific events. And you can have different email address exceptions that apply. You can have an email address exception that applies to only spam. You can have a different email address exception that applies to only fingerprints, or other email address exceptions that only apply to any other filters that you set up. So it's not a global, so I could have an email address for ben@guava.com that applies to only spam. I could have a different email address filter or exception that applies for q@guava.com that only applies to fingerprinting. So, or you can mix and match however you want to on the exceptions. So with Guava 7, very powerful in how you want to configure the system. We tried to make it as simple as possible for you to come in and configure the system, or have a default configuration. So you just had to come in and do some minor tweaking for your system. So this is why it's quite a bit more difficult to have a true upgrade or migration path from Guava 6 to Guava 7, is because of the way the databases and the scanning is set up. It is vastly different from Guava 6 to Guava 7. That the way it's set up and configured is hard to do a full migration path.
Okay, great. Wow, lots of great information. And thanks everyone for putting your questions in. We've had a lot of good questions as well. So with the remaining time, we just have a few more areas to go over, and then we'll get to the questions that are in there as well. If you could touch on the full-featured content filtering and envelope filtering.
Yeah, so the full content filtering, so pretty much anything that we do in Guava 6, we can do in Guava 7. We wanted to make sure that we didn't leave anything out. With the SMTP envelope filtering, let me drag this one down here and we'll show you. So once again, if you have any questions on what a specific item can do, we click on the picture, and then it pulls up what are your configuration options are. With the SMTP envelope filtering, it means, do I test, was this sent over a secure connection? Yes, I want to make sure that was sent over SSL using Start TLS, or did the client authenticate to my mail server? So you can do specific tests to make sure that anyone coming in as doing the, Start TLS, or making sure that it's all secure.
Okay, great. And then could you talk about the notifications, easy to configure and ad hoc and customizable notifications?
Yeah, so the notify, you have a lot of different notification templates that you can use. It's under the template here. I'll leave that page and we'll come back. So these are the default ones that we come in with the system. You are able to create new ones. These are the service types, these are the types that you can use, but you can create a specific notify service. You can download these templates, you can modify them, and then re-upload them to say, look, here's the service, the notification that I'm going to use. As you create or edit those ones that you want to use, you can come down here, and with the service, if we're going to fire on something, we're going to add this notify service to the deployment workbench, and we're going to click on the little icon to configure it. So we come in here and we say, look, here is the notification template. If you created multiple notification templates, you come in here and you say, look, I'm just going to do the notified recipients template. If you had some custom thing there, you specify the sender address. There's some customizations here, and then you can hit the notify sender recipients or additional recipients, however you want to do that. With the notifications, once again, if you were in the multi-tenant mode and you wanted to have specific looking headers in the template so that it showed that organization's logo or something like that, you can go and create custom templates, as many as you want, and then just in the notify here, that's when you specify, look, we're going to send a notification to the admin, or you specify your notification, and then I'm going to notify or set a notification on, anytime a virus comes in, I want to notify these people. Or with the image analyzer, if a specific image comes in that's questionable, I want to notify a certain individual. So.
Okay, and then let's hit on improved pattern matching with support for standards-based regular expression pattern matching. Can you tell us about that?
Right. Yeah, so with those, it definitely is applicable to the, with the regular expressions of you're looking for specific text or you want to be doing wildcard pattern matching. If we come over here to domain management, you can see, look, here's guava.com. The additional host patterns, if you have multiple subdomains for organization, you can just put in star.domain.com. Then it's going to handle any email coming into sales.guava.com, support.guava.com, or development.guava.com. So with a single star, you can have a lot more custom options for matching those multiple patterns instead of having to specify specific patterns for each one.
Great. I understand that the port configuration for Guava has changed. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so as you can see, the port 49282 is no longer needed here up in the URL. It is all port 80 or port 443. One of the options you have here is once you put in your certs for your SSL configuration, you can actually come in here, you specify the location here, and you click the unlock button. But right here it says, look, you can't do that because right now we're not set up using an SSL certificate or cert. So you would we'd have to make sure that the Apache cert is set up and working to use SSL for the web browser. So don't need to go into port 49282 or port, if you use the quarantine port, the 49285. It's all working based on the URL that you go to. For example, this other system. When I hit login, you get prompted, do I want to log into the system administration or to the quarantine system? So whether it's the management page or it's the quarantine, you're going to the same URL, and then you're just specifying at the time of login, depending on the rights that you have, it'll prompt you, do you go into this one or that one? If you've only got rights to the one, then you just go into the one. And that kind of answers the next topic here about the single login portal. So you're not having users go into one spot over here for the management and another spot for the quarantine. You're specifying one URL and you're logging in.
Okay, perfect. Let's hit on a few more of the questions that are in the chat and Q&A, and then we'll finish up with these few more. So the other one was, can you do a manual move of your exceptions and block source lists?
Yes, and that's definitely what you can easily do if you just do a select all in the Guava 6, kind of copy to Notepad, put everything in its own line. And for example, if we look at the message text filter here, we'll come in here, and then you're just given a big text box. So each criteria on its own line, just like that, and you can add in the different text filters that you've set up. And similar with the exceptions, you copy it out of Guava 6 and you put in Notepad, just get rid of any white space, any leading tabs or anything like that. And then you come in here and you copy and paste. At that point, you associate those exceptions or those new filters with a block or with a filter that you want to override, hit save, and you're pretty much, as long as if those are the two main ones that you want to make sure are coming over. Same thing with the source address filters. You drag the filter down here, you copy, you paste, you associate a block or quarantine with those filters. Same thing, you associate an exception with those. And you've essentially just migrated from Guava 6 to Guava 7. So it's a little bit of work, but not a whole lot.
Great. And then another one was, would the round robin help with load balance between Guava boxes?
Yeah, so if you have multiple SMTP interfaces defined, and then likewise you would want to make sure that you have multiple Guava scan engines defined, the priority that you have in the module status, or in the SMTP interface here, I'll show you the fault tolerance. This priority, it works just like MX records. So you can have, if you had 5 different scan engines, you could set them all to have a priority 1, or you could set 3 of them to have a priority 1, and then 2 of them to have a priority of 2. And that way the round robin says, look, we're going to just go round the Guava scan engines, and we're just going to go to the next one. So you're not overloading just one scan engine. You're spreading the love and making sure that each of the Guava scan engines get some time.
Okay, let's see. Are there standard notify templates in other languages than English, like German, for example?
So right now, there's not, but you would have to just come in here and download. You can download these current templates, set them to the languages that you would like, and then re-upload them, or create a new template here. And then that way, anytime we make an update to the system, we're not going to override any of the templates that any of the custom templates that you've done.
Great. Okay, and then let's see. Let's go back to a few more of these features. What about directional filtering control? What is that?
So that's the ability to specify inbound versus outbound filtering. So you can create multiple policies here to say, look, here's my inbound policy, or here's my outbound policy. And when the time comes that we have, say, an internal way to determine inbound or internal mail policies, then you can specify, which policy will be scanned by a message. It's on the interface to tell the Guava scan engine to say, look, this is an inbound mail or an outbound mail, so make sure it uses the correct policy to scan the message.
Great. Next we have, is there a way to migrate the quarantine contents from 6 to 7?
As of right now, there's not. It's not a terribly easy way to do that. What would probably be the best way is to, if you can, leave the Guava 6 system up for 30 days while Guava 7 is building its quarantine, and then Guava 6 will naturally phase its quarantine out and then will no longer be relevant.
Great. And then looks like we have 2 final questions. Can you touch on decompressing for us? How has that changed in Guava 7?
So with Guava 7, right here in the policy as well, we have our scan archives by default, and then you can specify the scan depth. With Guava 6, we were pretty limited with the specific archives that we could scan, specifically mainly just being zip. But with Guava 7, we've opened that up to have more compression types, specifically gzip, the tar, RAR files, 7-zip. Those should all be now supported with Guava 7 and our decompression.
Great. And then I see that Guava now has a REST API. Could you tell us what that's for?
So all the communication that happens between the Guava processes is all done via REST, and that just means that we're not using any standard protocol to say, look, in the communication between the processes. It's handing off a REST packet and saying, look, here's all my stuff, scan it. What that does is it allows the third-party applications to come in and write in their own communication algorithms and schemes and to be able to talk with Guava and get any information in or out of the system.
Okay, and it looks like we have one more here. Have you made any changes to help with ransomware?
So we're still working on those specific types that we do have in the mail filter policy. We're trying to enable more virus type tests. We have our standard virus tests, and then we have the 0-hour virus, which should help determine and find those more immediate virus threats that are coming to the system And as viruses get added to the virus definitions, we're trying to make sure that those are always kept up to date and things. So still trying to do the best we can there with the ransomware and everything.
Okay, great. It looks like we're at the hour, so we're going to have to finish up. If there are any questions we didn't get to, we'll make sure to follow up with those. And just as a reminder, this session has been recorded, and you will all get a link to the recording. Thanks everyone for being here and for your time, and hope you can benefit from this information. And we're really excited to bring you Guava 7, and would like to also thank Ben for his time and for what he has prepared for us. And thanks everyone for being here, and I hope to see you on the next one.